webinar, Empowering Communities with Electronic Payments, A Government's Guide to Digital Transformation. I'm Allie Maynard, and I'll guide you through today's discussion. Today, we'll explore how digital transformation through electronic payment solutions can enhance the efficiency and accessibility of government services. We'll explore how transitioning to digital payments can enhance both your operations and well-being of your communities. You'll hear directly from the town of Wilton about their successful adoption of electronic payments, and we'll discuss practical solutions that can enhance the way your jurisdiction handles transactions. Joining us today is Eric Window, the finance officer from the town of Wilton, New Hampshire, and Amanda Trubaj, a value engineer at Avenue Insights and Analytics. Eric brings nearly a decade of experience in building retail stores nationwide from the ground up, demonstrating a strong foundation in project management and operations. Transitioning from his background to focus on finance, Eric quickly advanced through various roles in accounts payable and accounts receivable, eventually finding his niche in municipal finance. Eric, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. And Amanda Trubaj, a product expert and value engineer at Avenue Insights and Analytics. Amanda has worked with thousands of local and state government customers, implementing our services and tailoring them to meet their specific needs. Amanda, thank you for joining today. We look forward to hearing from you.
Excited to be here. Thank you so much, Allie.
Before we dive in, let's briefly touch upon Avenue's significant role in modernizing government payments across North America. With over 4 decades of service to more than 4,500 state and local customers, Avenue continues to make a significant impact on government operations. And whether you're already familiar with Avenue's offerings or just starting to explore them, today's webinar will provide valuable insights into our strategies and successes. During our session today, we'll discuss the current demand for electronic payment solutions and common challenges that governments face. We'll discuss common hurdles and how technology can improve your payment processes. You'll hear firsthand from the town of Wilton and how they've transformed their operations through electronic payments. We'll dive into tangible benefits and lessons learned from Wilton's experience with Avenue software. At the end of our discussion today, we'll open the floor to questions, so please feel free to submit your questions through the chat feature to the right of this presentation. And to kick things off, I wanted to dive in the current state of electronic payments. Amanda, could you walk us through the current demand for electronic payment solutions?
Absolutely. As many of you probably know, the demand for electronic payment processing has increased exponentially over the last several years. Actually, more than 93% of all payments processed in the United States are processed through an electronic means, such as credit card or ACH. It grew exponentially, especially due to COVID, as we saw over the last couple of years. Luckily, we're on kind of the tail end of that. But what COVID taught us is that really electronic payment processing and the need for online services and things like that aren't going anywhere. So another thing that's pushing electronic payment processing is that public health and environmental impacts. So the public health being COVID, environmental impacts being paperless billing, resource constraints, and things like that. Additionally, budget constraints. So budget constraints are causing a lot of creativity within government organizations to find alternative ways to collect and organize and administer these payments and process them. So electronic payment processing allows this revenue to be accepted 24/7 at all hours. And of course, it's convenient for end users and customers, improving the customer service and their convenience, obviously, not having to take time off work, drive into offices. All of that adds into this push for electronic payment processing, either in person or online, especially online. It also enhances security and reduces theft with less cash changing individuals' hands throughout organizations and things like that. It's a way to streamline that as well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Amanda. And with this rise in the demand for electronic payment solutions, how is that impacting our communities and citizen expectations?
Sure. So I, very quickly touched on this. A lot of the push for electronic payment processing is coming directly from the constituents, the citizens, the end users of the product, and the ones paying these bills or taxes. So they're asking for more convenience. They're busy. They have, more hectic schedules today than ever before. We're seeing that, especially on the outskirts of COVID, getting back into the world of the activities and things like that. They need fast and easy ways, especially government taxes and things like that, making it easier for the end users and the taxpayers to make these. They're more likely to go ahead and pay those on time and get that revenue flowing into the organization more quickly. Again, those health and environmental conscious individuals that are looking for ways to reduce their contact with public, as well as reduce environmental impacts such as paper and things like that. They're really pushing for this initiative of more electronic payment processing. They're looking for services and innovation that can provide these things without increasing taxes for them. So giving the taxpayers the choice to utilize these services without forcing it upon them while increasing taxes in order to pay for the services. So the convenience fee model, where the fee is passed on to the individuals that really see the true convenience and the value in using these services and these electronic payment processing methods, gives a choice and puts that choice into the taxpayers' hands, which all of us can agree we want to be a part of that decision-making process. They can always pay by cash or check and avoid any additional fees. They're also looking for self-services. So they don't want to have to wait. They don't want to have to take time off work, as I said. They don't want to have to drive downtown and find a spot for parking, most of the time having to pay for that parking and things like that. They don't want to wait on hold to get their questions answered. They don't want to have to call in. I mean, we're in a day and age where phone calls are reduced more now than ever, and they're looking for easy text messaging or emailing capabilities, electronic portals that allow them to communicate directly and get answers quickly. So all of those things are pushing these from a constituent perspective.
Thanks for sharing those. I know as a citizen myself, I obviously can relate to all of those key points. So thank you so much, Amanda. And now I want to kind of turn it over to Eric. And I wanted to see how your town office was operating before and after implementing payments in your office. Can you kind of provide us an overview of your town operations, Eric?
Yeah, so I'll paint a little picture for you. Here in Wilton, we are just under 4,000 residents. So pretty small office here. We are open only 3 days a week to the public. So that really limits the amount of hours that the public can actually come into the office and do business with us. Um, since coming on board in 2022, I saw that those 3 days really we would have a line of customers, sometimes even out through the door. Um, and having my customer retail experience background, I really saw that we could definitely make some improvements in that area. Again, resident satisfaction or resident convenience in making these transactions is something I definitely wanted to emphasize. So with enabling us to take on these payments this way, it enabled us to kind of free up that extra time of the day for those 3 days that they were actually in the office to spend more time with the residents that were doing transactions for tax related items or DMV related items, alleviating the permitting questions and so on and so forth. So really just trying to reduce the overall foot traffic in our office, and we definitely were able to do that.
That's great. Thanks for sharing those. I'm sure you've seen, as you said, a big shift in priorities in the office. So I know that their 24/7 online portal was one of your main initiatives here, but also the ability to customize those forms. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit and explain how that has enhanced your processes?
Yeah, so being able to adjust these forms on the go definitely just kind of puts it into our hands in being able to make these fixes on the fly. Having access to the dashboard and able to make changes as far as fees go, as far as descriptions go, as far as what the actual permits look like. You can do that all from the dashboard side of things, which makes it that much easier to make these changes happen. So it definitely makes it really easy for us to make these changes on the fly. Again, the fees extremely easy to go in onto the dashboard and exactly choose exactly what you need. So
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing your experience with us. And Amanda, based on Eric's experiences and some of the challenges that he mentioned prior to implementing electronic payments, are these similar to issues that you've seen in other governments that you've worked with?
Absolutely. And it's really fascinating because obviously Eric is coming from a, smaller organization, smaller population size, but they're actually struggling with a lot of the same issues that we're seeing from a lot of our customers that are much larger, have over 100,000, 150,000 population and higher. The smaller organizations have reduced staff, reduced office hours and things like that, causing lines and wait times and inefficiencies within those offices. Whereas the larger populations, they're seeing very similar things, but they have extended hours, they have the, more resources, but they're dealing with a much more robust population base. And so they're having the same lines. They're looking for those same efficiencies and things like that. So it's very interesting how such diverse and different customer sets can really experience similar issues. Some other issues that we're seeing across the gauntlet of our customers and prospects that we talk with on a regular basis, budget constraints. Those are huge. That is what tends to lean into those resource constraints and not having enough staff, is the budget constraints that they're dealing with. So money is incredibly tight across government organizations. Taxpayers are more vocal about how they're seeing their taxpayer dollars spent. And so there's a lot more pressure on government organizations to spend them in an effective manner that makes sense and that brings value to the taxpayers. So they're looking for those creative and cost-effective ways to bring technology and innovation to their citizens without increasing taxes as much as possible. So the electronic payment processing is one of those really creative ways that they're able to do that. Their uncollected revenue, so taxpayers are avoiding payments or forgetting because which can cause even more revenue intake problems or cash flow issues within the organizations, and which can aid and parlay those budget constraints into bigger issues if they're not getting that revenue in more quickly, seeing higher uncollected revenue throughout the organization. Electronic payment processing can really help alleviate a lot of that, especially with a convenient online system that allows taxpayers to schedule payments in advance or set auto payments and do these things as they're thinking about them, but while they have in a way that allows them to do it with their own personal budget constraints, taking into consideration from a taxpayer perspective, as well as efficiency. So outdated tools make processing more manual and often have to run the same processes across several different software platforms, i.e. the reconciliation process, just as an example. So when you're dealing with multiple different payment platforms or revenue collection platforms, if you don't have a centralized location or tool to aggregate all of those together, finance teams or individuals are having to run the same processes multiple times in a day across these multiple platforms, which causes a lot of inefficiency. So those are all factors that we're seeing, the main factors for sure.
Thanks. And similar to that, what are some of these common hurdles that you're seeing? I know you touched on some of the challenges. Can you dive into this a little bit more?
Yeah, so those outdated systems that I was talking about, these are some of the roadblocks that inhibit or give a false narrative to some of these government organizations that bring on electronic payment processors, especially a unified platform, isn't really possible or feasible for them. The outdated technology, we hear a lot. Well, our systems, are just so outdated, we can't probably handle that, and we don't have the budget to update these systems at that time. It's a common misconception. We can work with any of the technology. We have a lot of different ways in order to do that, from really enhanced, innovative, more modern solutions to more batch processes on the back end and things like that. Lack of IT support is another roadblock that we hear often. We just don't have the IT resources or back end to help facilitate bringing on these electronic payment processing. But, our team helps with the onboarding process a lot. We work with IT staff, but we also work with customers that don't have their own dedicated IT staff. We work with outsourced IT systems. And a lot of times our delivery team is able to take on a lot of the onboarding requirements that their IT staff would normally handle. So even the smallest IT staff, which can sometimes consist of, no dedicated IT members, and working with different members of the government organization that, kind of spearhead the IT solutions on the back end, we've seen the gauntlet. A lot of our larger prospects do have their on-staff, on-site IT that we work with, and it makes it very easy. We are working with larger kind of integrations and back-end processes and things like that in those cases. And a lot of our smaller organizations that we work with, we don't have that same dedicated IT staff. So it is a misconception that we can't do that if we don't have a dedicated IT staff member to work with. Another very common misconception that inhibits our customers or prospects from moving forward with some of these services or putting it off for longer than they really should are security concerns. So it's a big misunderstanding and misinformation as abound about electronic payment security processes. There's a connotation around the cloud and how secure the cloud is, and there's a lot of things that make these services and processes more secure. So educating our customers and prospects around those security concerns and how we are more secure. We have the highest level of PCI compliance that exists. A lot of what we do and the way we implement things is to shield our customers from those security concerns as much as possible and take those burdens on ourselves. So another common misconception, which parlays into compliance issues, so meeting regulations for the jurisdiction. We really help our customers deal with that ourselves. So we take on the brunt of that compliance requirements and things like that. So we shield our customers as much as possible, which not only shields them from the requirements in the upfront resource burden that facilitating those requirements might bring on, but it's also shielding them from the liability and things like that come along with the potential security concerns and things like that. And lastly, and I think probably the most overwhelming that we hear is staff within these organizations thinking that citizens just won't use the services. So we have to overcome that misconception. A lot of them I hear say, we have an older customer base. They have no interest in this technology. And we actually have data that proves otherwise. A lot of the older generation is looking for these services and utilizes them quite frequently. There's a much higher adoption rate to these services than our customers believe there will be in the first year, let alone, many, many years after bringing on the systems and services. So it's a huge misconception that that citizens or end users just won't use the services. And that's something that really inhibits our customers from moving forward sometimes.
And that's a really good point. And I think another important aspect is how you effectively communicate these new services to your citizens after your onboarding process. Eric, how did you notify your community when you added these new services online?
That is a great question. For the town of Wilton, we actually put out a newspaper article about a month in advance, letting people know that there is going to be a change in the way we actually can intake our revenue. So that was posted on in the local newspaper, as well as on our community Facebook. I feel like that probably garners the most attention. So we put it out there, a lot of great responses. And also our fire chief, Don Nurse, he was the one kind of putting these permits online. He kind of was cheerleading it to all the local businesses in town and trying to get all the local businesses to start using the service. And we actually did that. One of the biggest resistance to change that we actually saw was the clerks here, the employees here, they didn't believe that the people were actually going to use this service and fill out these applications online. And we actually found that 87% of the users since going live were actually using the online service. So they were logging into the portal and making these transactions. Again, 87% of the users. So that alleviates that 3 days that we were open out of the week. 87% of the people that would have been coming in were now filling it out online. So again, it was great resistance at first, but actually showing the data after going live really made people think differently about it.
Wow, that's an awesome stat. Thank you for sharing that. And you really just drilled home Amanda's point there, where you did see a high adoption rate. So that's great to hear. And it's also nice to hear that you have support across multiple departments. I know you mentioned your fire chief, and you have services with the fire department. Now, are they communicating to their citizens through the dashboard too?
Yes. So that is another one of the great aspects of the dashboard. I believe when you're putting in these transactions, you have an availability to put it in your email. So that enables the kind of communication to be opened up between the department head and the person who's applying for the permit. Again, that communication is definitely helpful for clarifying questions on the permit that they may have. They can reach out directly to the person who has the say in it. Again, for receipting wise, customers don't have to wait for a receipt or have to wait in the office for a receipt. They can get it emailed right over to them. And then not to mention the dashboard on the financial aspect of it, and for reconciling on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. I'm able to kind of feed everything into that one dashboard and kind of break it out by department. So we kind of have separate departments set up. So one for our clerks for our tax and utility billing, one for our going to be recycling center, our gas permits. So it kind of separates it to make it easier. So I'm just looking at what I need to actually input for the day. Really, really makes it extremely easy to use.
That's great to hear. And I'm sure as the finance officer, you heavily rely on those reporting tools. So that's great feedback. And I think that really just proves how technology can create engagement with your community and also enhance your overall operations. Amanda, I know we started touching on some of the features within Avenue Payments. Can you kind of walk us through Avenue Payments as a whole?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So, our payment processing services incorporate online, in person, as well as a mobile application that allows payments to be taken anywhere in the field. And all of them are aggregated into a single portal that we call the dashboard. So, this is the online portal where employees such as Eric and his staff can log in and manage the interaction from the online system to their end users, take in-person payments, run reports, and things like that. So they really have the ability and capabilities, as Eric was just discussing, to make these changes and things without having to reach out to our staff to do so. The in-person system is a full cash receipting system. So it is designed to process credit cards, but it can also accept cash and check payments as well for a full single stream revenue collection across the board and a single stream reporting. And our mobile application allows for payments to be taken anywhere in the field. So think of, transfer stations. It's used a lot so that they can walk out to cars and take credit card payments without having to take a credit card back and swiping. There are PAX devices where the mobile application resides are EMV capable. They have the tap or contactless payment as well. So highest form of security that exists for in-person transactions. And that mobile application allows you to do it anywhere in the field. Another good example of the mobile application in use is you have a water department. They might have some delinquent accounts where they have to go and shut off some water. They can take that device out in the field, collect a payment in person at their home, at the residence, and avoid having to shut off that water. So huge use cases for that. All of the transactions filter into that dashboard for reviewing, reversing transactions. So Eric and his team, any of our customer and their staff are able to manage those transactions and reverse them in full or in partial if needed. And as Eric mentioned, there is capabilities that segregate this information and details from the transactions to what they can actually have the capabilities of doing within the system for security purposes from staff to staff. So that's the full kind of high level overview. There's lots of things it can do. Our online system does allow for online bill presentment. There's a citizen portal that allows them to log in and store payment methods, schedule payments for future dates. We are in the process of implementing auto payments that will be here in the next few weeks, where they can set it up so as a bill becomes available, it will automatically pay and send them a reminder the day before that executes or so. So lots of benefit and features from a citizen perspective as well for the online capabilities.
That's great. Thank you so much, Amanda. And Eric, I know that you utilize a lot of these services already, and your town is actually considering implementing the mobile application right now. Can you kind of describe what led you to that decision?
Yes. So I'm extremely happy about bringing this online at the recycling center here in Wilton. Wilton, we actually have a rather large recycling center here. Not only is it the residents of Wilton coming to our recycling center, but four other partner towns are also using our center as well. So on the weekends, it can get rather busy. And right now, we can only receive cash and checks at the time. And currently, our employees there are handwriting all of their cash receipts. So that is enough said right there. Anything that to improve that process would definitely benefit us. So after setting our gas permits up, going live, and how smooth of a transition that happened, and how quickly that happened, I saw that you guys actually offered these PAX devices, and a light bulb went off and said, "Hey, why not think about the recycling center?" So after a couple back and forths with you all, we're starting to slowly implement this, and we're about to go live. And I cannot wait to see the increase, not only the increase in revenue, I believe, but the increase in clarity, in actually getting to get these numbers on a daily basis, rather than having to wait for the cash receipts to come into the town office and then me sit down there and try to decipher on if that was a 6 or a 0 written down on these reports. So it's going to clear up a lot of those questions. And again, it's just going to bring us into the future of processing payments, and really cannot wait to go live with it.
That's awesome. That's so exciting to hear. And I'm sure, not only the reporting you'll heavily benefit from that, but also just as time saver. I mean, for both, you in finance, but also the workers at the transfer station too.
Yes, again, they were handwriting on these cash receipts, so they'll be able to have these PAX devices go to the people's in their car and make these transactions. It's going to speed up the process. The flow of traffic, I believe, is going to pick up. So all in all, I cannot wait for this to go live.
Very exciting. Thank you, Eric. And moving on from there, Amanda, we're still kind of diving into the dashboard, and I know Eric uses that heavily, and the PAX device, connects directly to our dashboard. Can you kind of dive into some more of the features here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've touched on all of these, I think, or most of these a little bit, but one of the main components of our system is the convenience fee program, where the fee is passed on to the individuals that see the convenience and choose to use the online system or pay by credit card or an electronic processing method, such as ACH. They can avoid those fees by continuing to pay by cash or check. So again, really giving that decision-making power to the end user, to the citizen, is a huge, huge benefit to the product. There's no upfront cost for our customers, for our government customers, to bring these services on. And then it's just, based on who chooses to use the system. So it makes it very budget friendly and cost effective for the government organizations. I touched on our level of PCI compliant from the PAX perspective, as well as the online perspective, and how hard we work to really shield customers from the PCI compliance requirements, because it then limits how the systems interact with their existing systems, to limit that liability and possibility of having more communications obviously can increase, risk and things like that. So we're really mitigating that risk as much as possible and taking that burden on for our customers, which is a huge convenience for them to utilize our services. As Eric has mentioned, with the dashboard and some of the other components of the systems that he's utilizing, there's a real flexibility within the systems to make changes and things on their own, giving them the tools to do that. Robust reporting, which is really important, and really emphasizes that kind of all-encompassing portal that sits on top of their existing systems. It makes it so there's no, we're not replacing systems. You're not coming on with a new robust system. You're using your same day-to-day systems, and we're kind of putting a wrapper. I like to think of it as like a little cherry on top of their day today of what they're currently doing, that just opens up the door for more innovation and convenience for their end users, for their citizens, with that unified platform. Through modern technology, I've mentioned a lot of the modern technology that we have, the mobile application being one of the most modern. But we have scanning features, QR code scanning on the PAX devices, being able to print permits for the end user, being able to print them immediately without having to mail them, reducing, again, environmental factors and concerns there. All of these are designed to increase and enhance the citizen engagement, which is designed to bring revenue into our customers and their organizations much more quickly and streamlining that whole process.
And for those who have never used an online portal system, can you kind of walk us through the process here?
Absolutely. So it's incredibly easy. We make it as user friendly as possible, but it's really just a few simple steps. So number one, I think the most important thing I like to touch on when I talk about the use of the online system from an end user perspective is how all of the different revenue streams. So Eric has talked about, transfer station, fire department, the clerk department, all of them that use it within the town there. What our online system is doing, what we're doing is we're actually standardizing across all of the different departments, across all of the revenue streams. We're standardizing that online checkout process. So when you're relying on individual vendor systems and individual processing systems today, those can be very different experiences for each revenue stream. We're standardizing that across the board, which makes it easier than ever for customers or citizens and users to go online and feel familiar, feel like they know and are very comfortable with the system, and to come back and use it again. So standardizing those across the board is really important from an end user easeability perspective. But it's really a few simple steps. So they go on, they locate the item that they're looking for to make a payment for, a bill, whatever that might be, a building permit, a fire permit, something like that. They add it to their cart. They can choose to log in or they can check out as a guest. It's not a requirement to log in through our systems. If they do log in, it does allow them to store payment methods, utilize a stored payment method, so they don't even have to enter their payment information in each time. And then they agree to the information. They have a form where they can view exactly what they're purchasing, the fees associated with it. They have to physically accept those fees, and they check out. It's really as simple as that. We then display a confirmation on the page that they're on to let them know that their payment was successful and any next steps. If there is any real-time printing of a permit or anything like that, we provide them a link to go ahead and make that print right there or download that document right there. And we also send a confirmation email allowing them to do all of those same things. So it's a confirmation that outlines exactly what they purchased, when they purchased it, the fees, as well as if they do have any documents for download, there's a button right there for them to do that as well. So really, really simple from an end user perspective.
That's awesome. Convenience is paramount right now, and that's what the people are looking for. So thank you so much for walking through that process. And, with all these services, with these in-person electronic payments and online services, what kind of benefits are you seeing for local governments? I know Eric shared his experience, and I'm sure some of these are very similar to other communities too.
Absolutely, they really are. Kind of to sum up everything that I've touched on here today, those major benefits, a unified payment platform or a payment solution is huge. So having a single place that they can log into to run reports, a single place where they can go to refund transactions that they need to, or communicate directly with their end user. We give them the phone number, the email. At a click, they can email their customer if they have a question or anything like that. That unified platform really expedites the payment process and revenue collection process. In taking more revenue. That convenience fee model is very convenient, not only for our customer because there's no upfront cost, but also for the end user. Again, they want to be a part of the decision-making process. They want these solutions that allow them to choose, yes, I see the convenience. I'm willing to pay a little bit more for this, or no, I'm not willing to pay more. I want to keep my taxes low. I don't have that within my budget today. So it's really important to them too. Increase citizen engagement. We talked about that. Familiarity with the system. They're more likely to come back and use it again. And they are more likely to see the convenience and see why that added charge is being passed on to them, and be more accepting of that when they feel like they're getting the innovation and the ease and saving their own time, energy, and even money having to drive or take time off work and park and things like that. But just giving them that variety of payment. So you're giving them the options. You're putting more options out there for them to make payment, more ways for them to do it. And the ones that choose to do it online or to pay by credit card or to do it in these new innovative ways can do so. And those that choose not to can continue down the same path that they are with cash or mailing in a check and things like that. So it's a plethora of benefits, but those are definitely the major ones.
Those are some great points, Amanda. And Eric, I know that you've been using these products for about a year now. What are some of the immediate benefits that you noted when you brought on these online payment systems?
Yeah, so what really originally made this such an easy decision for the town of Wilton was we already had some of our utility billings, but your overall footprint in the state of New Hampshire is very great. So talking with the other communities and actually going on to the other communities' pages, their websites, and seeing actually how it all looks and what other communities are doing and how they're taking online payments, it really made it that much of an easier decision for us to go with you all. The dashboard, extremely, extremely easy to use. It really walks you through the process, not only for the transactions that are coming in online that are live, but the availability for the reporting is really important for me, especially for the finance part of it. I'm kind of crazy when it comes to numbers and collecting this revenue and recording it in a timely manner. So I actually opted to sign up for the daily emails. So you can actually set the time of day those emails come to you, I believe. So I do it at the end of each closing day, and I get that email. So when I come in the morning and open up my email, those are usually the first two emails that I show, and I book that email, that revenue immediately. So again, no lost revenue, easy access to the dashboard and how those transactions are flowing through there and then into my software system. It's extremely easy to use. I was really, really, really happy that we made this transition and started adding more services and more options to our citizens for payments.
That's so great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad you appreciate those email notifications. I'm sure that must be so nice to just open up your email, have your reports when you want them without even having to log into the dashboard.
That's exactly it. And I can use those receipts as my backup. It's extremely easy to use. I do go often into the dashboard just to kind of look at everything. But again, I don't even have to open it up to collect those revenues. So yes, again, it's amazing.
That's awesome. Thanks, Eric. And through this process, are there any lessons learned or best practices that you would share with our audience who are considering bringing on similar services?
That's actually a fantastic question, and I'm glad you asked that. One of the main things before we went live with adding more services was to look at our cash handling policies and really just kind of look at what it all entails. And if we're going to add a new department onto there, let's make sure that the department head actually knows how to handle those transactions. So I really want to emphasize the policy in place that you have really should encapsulate all of these types of transactions, especially credit cards and ACH payments. We have a pretty robust policy here in the town of Wilton, and I am more than happy to share that with anyone out there in the audience today that would be willing to take a look at it. I'm more than happy to look at it, but a couple of the things that I kind of highlight in my policy here, I'll share with you all. Number one thing is the segregation of duties. You want to make sure that the people who are taking in the cash is not the same people who are recording it into the system. That's kind of a no-brainer there. Keeping a good receipt log. Again, the dashboard does keep a great receipt log, but you want to kind of have your own and make sure that you're capturing everything that's coming in. Review and reconciliation aspect of it. That goes for not saying anything. You want to make sure that you are reconciling on a monthly basis. And of course, acceptance of these transactions. So you actually have to have this in policy. You can accept, for the town of Wilton, accept credit cards, accept ACH payments, and so on and so forth. So having that real solid policy and making sure that the stakeholders at play in your town fully understand this policy is definitely important, and something I definitely want to emphasize on top of everything. So that was one of my things, and I'm more than welcome to share my policy with everyone. It is a public policy, so please ask me for it.
Thanks, Eric. That's so nice. I know that our audience can definitely appreciate that. It's always nice to hear what other communities are doing and hear from their experiences. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for asking.
And, to wrap up our discussion today, we discussed our main topics here: the current demand for electronic payment solutions, the town of Wilton's experiencing, highlighting the tangible benefits that these services bring to not only their operations, but also the citizen engagement. And Amanda's overview of the payment solution has given us a comprehensive understanding of how technology can streamline these processes, increase transparency, and improve overall efficiency. So thank you both. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Eric, and your expertise, Amanda. It's been very beneficial. And I think now we're ready to open up the floor for questions. We'll address as many as we can in the time remaining. All right. Our first question here. What is the implementation period and how long did it take to implement these services? Eric, maybe you can start how long it took you to implement these online services. Let's hear you.
Yeah, that is an awesome question. It might be different from user to user, but I'm very computer savvy, and if you have someone in the office that is computer savvy, the implementation process was, I want to say, too easy. It was a simple phone call to you all to kind of get the ball rolling, a couple emails back and forth, and I believe it was 2 actual phone calls that were real meetings to kind of go over how to use the system. And in those 2 phone calls, I sat down with our fire chief, Don Nurse, and we were able to pick up on this extremely fast. So it only took 2 phone calls in a short meeting to kind of go over how to use the system, and we were flying from there. Really, really easy implementation. That's what kind of made my decision to implement it at the recycling center. How smooth of a transaction. We went live within the first couple of months with the building, the fire permits and everything. So as soon as I saw how smooth that went, it was a no-brainer to get our recycling center on.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for sharing that. Another question we have here: does Avenue offer training? I know,
Yeah,
Eric.
that one.
Yeah, Amanda, maybe you can start. Thanks.
Yeah, we absolutely do offer training. However, as Eric stated, the system is really designed not only from an end user perspective to be very user friendly and kind of self-sufficient. The dashboard is designed for that as well. However, we do offer training. We also have a full support staff. So after you kind of go live, you're not just alone on an island. We're always here to help. We have a dedicated support team that works solely on these payment products that you can always send an email or call. A lot of times reconciliation questions and things like that might come up, and our team's here to help with those things as well. But a lot of times the level of training that customers believe they'll need and the level of training that they actually need tends to be a lot less. But they do always rely on our support team. So I can't emphasize how wonderful of a support team we have enough.
Awesome. All right. I think we have time for one more question. Does Avenue integrate with accounting systems? Amanda?
Yeah. So the way you think about this is really, like I said, we're not ripping and replacing any systems. We do integrate with a lot of backend systems, general ledgers and things like that. But we're not ripping and replacing any of your systems. Like I said, we're just that cherry on top. So a lot of times the way your systems are currently interacting with your GL are going to remain exactly the way that they are. So that communication has already been established through your systems, and the payment system is interacting with the middle vendor software. So the building permitting software or the property tax software, utility billing software. So payments is kind of on top, and then you have your vendor software in the middle, and then your back end software at the back end. And so there's no need for payment systems to necessarily work directly with the back end general ledger. However, in some cases, there are some revenue streams that you might not have that interface through the middle vendor system interacting with your GL. And we do have the ability to line each revenue stream very granular to a general ledger account number, and we can produce an actual manual journal entry that's exported in and imported, so you don't have to worry about data entry and data integrity and things like that. Our system can create that journal entry for the general ledger if aligned with the proper GL account number. So we have the ability, but in most cases, it's not necessary.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. And that's all we have time for today. I want to thank our speakers, Eric and Amanda. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to the attendees for joining us. We look forward to continuing this conversation and helping empower your communities with innovative payment solutions. And for those of you considering similar solutions, I hope you found Eric's firsthand experiences and Amanda's expert insights valuable. Again, thank you so much, Eric and Amanda. Thank you for joining us. If you have any further questions or want to learn more about how Avenue can support your community's payment processing needs, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you all.
Thank you, Allie.
Thank you.